But for now, I'm very pleased to be joined by Alan Dershowitz. Now, Alan is a lifelong Democrat voter, one of the most famous criminal lawyers in the USA, and indeed Harvard Law Professor Emeritus. Alan, good afternoon to you.
You too.
We always think of America, the land of the free, a country that took the best bits from us, from Magna Carta and everything else, and built it, developed it, became the world's global superpower, but certainly a place that we may have viewed as being more litigious, perhaps, than our country. But I'd never doubted before that it was free and fair. And I ask you, is it Donald Trump on trial, or is it now the American judicial system?
The American judicial system, the American constitutional system, the American media system. The United States is on trial, and we are failing badly. First time in my 60-year experience as a criminal defense lawyer professor at Harvard that I have ever seen the following combination of facts. A Democrat runs for district attorney. His pledge is get Trump. I wrote a book, Get Trump, based on his campaign pledge. He promises to get Trump so that Trump can't beat the head of his party.
Just for a moment, Alan, if I stop you for a moment, stop you for a minute just to say we've had it confirmed that Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty. No surprise. Sorry, Alan, back to you.
Right. No, first time in history this has ever happened. So a man from one party prosecutes a man from another party, claiming to get him. And if he's going to do that, he better have the strongest possible case. Now, we haven't seen the indictment, but it's unlikely that the indictment is anything that would ever have been directed against anybody other than Donald Trump. From everything I know now, this is the weakest case I've seen in 60 years. It may get strengthened. We may get better evidence, but I haven't seen it. The main witness against him is a man with a long record of lying. And this is an extraordinary example of justice that's not blind. The Bible says to judges, do not recognize faces, the blindfold over the eyes of justice. It's all being violated. This is a case where a decision was made to go after this man in whatever way they possibly can. Let's look for crimes. Then they looked for crimes and they couldn't find any. So they made up a misdemeanor. Then they stapled it to a federal felony. Now, again, in a few minutes, we'll know what the indictment is. It would greatly surprise me if they have a very, very strong case, a case that warrants prosecuting, forget about a past president, a future potential president, a man who I have the right to vote against for the third time. But he should be allowed to run without interference by a local district attorney based on a very, very weak case.
So, Alan, what has gone wrong with that party, the Democrats, that you've spent your adult life voting for? What is their thinking? Is it just a loathing of Donald Trump as a person, or have some of them forgotten the great democratic principles upon which America was founded?
I think both. I think Donald Trump is the poster child for what has come to be called Trump derangement syndrome. I have friends, professors, judges, former congressmen who are rational people. But when it comes to talking about Trump, it's like talking about Adolf Hitler. I mean, they totally canceled me because I once defended him in front of the United States Senate from an unconstitutional charge, and they refused to have anything to do with me. Imagine what would happen if a judge rendered a decision in favor of Trump. He would never, ever be reappointed or elected. We do have Trump derangement syndrome. When people mention the word Trump, they stop thinking. They just turn on a different way of processing things. And this has a great danger of destroying our legal system. The first paragraph in my book, I say essentially, look, even for those of you who think that electing Trump would be a danger to America, it's a far greater danger to destroy our Constitution in the process of trying to prevent Trump from being elected. I don't think Trump's going to get elected. I think he's going to lose to Biden. But let the voters decide that. Let's not distort our legal system forever and ever over one person. That's what I fear.
And Alan, is there any prospect of this coming back together the way that it should be, or do you fear this could get much worse before it gets better?
I know it will get worse because the judge doesn't have courage to move this case to a different part of the city, doesn't have the courage to dismiss it on statutory violations, on statute of limitations. This is a case that any first-year student should be able to win if the name of the defendant weren't Trump and the location weren't Manhattan. But it's stacked. The deck is stacked. There's no way that Donald Trump can win a case in Manhattan based on even the weakest testimony and the weakest law. So I think it's going to get worse. Ultimately, the Supreme Court will throw out this case. But by that time, there'll be an election. And this is really election interference by a local district attorney who campaigned on the promise to get Trump, then decided not to get him because the evidence was so weak. But then the New York Times reported that pushback was so great and the pressures were so great and the hatred directed against him was so great. Essentially, he couldn't resist it. And so he gave in to the mob. And this is mob injustice,
Extraordinary.
not this.
Extraordinary. Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening here in London. Thank you.